Hello, passionate Celtic FC fans. This is Celtic Central News, your exclusive source for Celtic updates. Before we kick off, we appreciate the incredible support. If you love Celtic, subscribe now, hit like, and let's build this community together. Now, on to the latest news. A warm welcome to new subscribers. Your support is crucial. Hail, hail! The whispers started late last night, trickling out of pubs around Glasgow like smoke from a fire that no one admits to starting. Yet everyone feels the heat of. Imagine the shock. David Beckham, the global football icon, the man who turned himself into both a brand and a statesman of the game, supposedly putting his name and his fortune into buying Celtic. Celtic, the pride of Parkhead, the club steeped in history, faith, and identity. It feels almost too wild to be true, yet the very absurdity of it has tongues wagging louder than the singing in the terraces. Beckham has been linked with ownership ventures before, of course. His role in Inter Miami is hardly a secret. But to cross the Atlantic and embed himself in one of the most fiercely followed clubs in Europe? That's the kind of rumor that grabs you by the throat and makes you lean in closer. People are already imagining Beckham in the director's box, suited, polished, with that signature grin, shaking hands with legends, waving to the Green Brigade, and immediately adding a sprinkle of Hollywood shine to a team that already drips with tradition. The idea itself sends ripples through the supporter base, because Celtic is not just a football club. It's a way of life, an institution tied deeply to the Irish community in Scotland, to working-class heritage, to decades of battles on and off the pitch with their fiercest rivals. To hear Beckham's name tossed into this cauldron is to invite both suspicion and excitement. On one hand, fans wonder if an outsider, an English superstar with celebrity appeal, could truly understand what it means to walk the halls of Celtic Park, to carry the weight of Lisbon Lions and generations of struggle. On the other, there's the undeniable lure of what Beckham brings. Money, media attention, commercial clout, and connections that could raise Celtic's profile far beyond Britain. With Celtic often lamenting the financial gap compared to Premier League clubs, the notion of Beckham injecting his global network might be seen as an opportunity to finally push back against that imbalance. Even the skeptics whisper, what if this is real? From a business perspective, it almost makes sense. Beckham has always been more than a footballer. He's a strategist when it comes to image and investment. Inter Miami was not just a vanity project. It was a statement. That football in the United States could attract stars, could draw eyes, could become fashionable in ways it had never managed before. Imagine him applying the same blueprint to Celtic, not in a league desperate for attention, but in one that craves financial growth and international relevance. There's also the narrative appeal. Beckham swooping in as a savior, a man of glamour rescuing Celtic from the constraints of Scottish football's limited revenues, bringing a buzz that could turn Champions League nights at Parkhead into global spectacles. Yet, this story is still nothing more than murmurs. Whispers exchanged like secrets in corner shops and supporters' buses. But that's how the best rumors begin, isn't it? Small, improbable, yet with just enough logic behind them to spark the imagination and keep the conversations flowing. Naturally, questions start forming faster than answers. Would Beckham actually buy the club outright? Or would he take a minority stake, positioning himself as a figurehead while others deal with the nitty-gritty? Who would join him in such a venture? Hollywood mates, fellow athletes, business tycoons drawn to the prestige of owning a piece of Celtic's history. And what of the board? The fans, the traditions? Would they welcome him with open arms, or would suspicion linger like a shadow over every smile? These are the complexities that make the rumor so deliciously rich. It's not just about Beckham himself, but about what his presence would symbolize. Celtic, a club known for passion over polish, heart over hype, suddenly basking in the glow of Beckham's celebrity. Would that glow elevate, or would it dilute what makes the club sacred? Fans debate this already, with arguments raging in forums, WhatsApp groups, and on late-night radio shows. For every supporter dreaming of global stardom, there's another warning against selling out the soul of the club to Hollywood gloss. Then there's the old firm dynamic, the eternal rivalry that defines Scottish football like nothing else. If Beckham were truly to step into Celtic, how would Rangers react? The thought alone is enough to light sparks, because every move one side makes ripples immediately across the divide. Imagine Rangers fans mocking the idea of Beckham as a fashion accessory for Celtic, while Celtic fans fire back that their club now has worldwide appeal. It could ignite a whole new layer to the rivalry, with Beckham inadvertently placed right at the center of Scotland's most combustible sporting narrative. Beyond the rivalry, the media circus would be relentless. Cameras, interviews, global headlines, and speculation at every turn. Glasgow would become a stage, not just for football, but for one of the most fascinating intersections of celebrity, sport, and tradition we've ever seen. Even the doubters admit, it's fun to picture. And isn't that what makes rumors thrive? The chance to imagine, to argue, to feel a buzz of possibility, even if the truth is miles away. All the while, the silence from Beckham's camp is deafening. No confirmations, no denials, no casual hints drop to give shape to the story. This absence of clarity only fuels the wildfire. Supporters and pundits alike are left in a vacuum, filling the gaps with speculation, with wild theories, with hopeful projections. Some swear they've heard it from reliable sources. Others dismiss it as fantasy cooked up by mischief makers. Yet the rumor refuses to die, because Beckham's name carries too much weight, too much sparkle, to be ignored once attached to Celtic. And so, the story lives, it grows, it twists. It becomes not just about football, but about culture, business, identity, and spectacle. Whether true or not, Beckham and Celtic have now been spoken in the same breath. And once that happens, you can't quite put the genie back in the bottle. If you look at Beckham's journey since hanging up his boots, you can see a pattern that almost makes this Celtic talk believable. He's never been one to fade quietly into retirement. Never been satisfied just being remembered as a great player. No, Beckham has always sought to reinvent himself, whether through fashion, philanthropy, or high-level football administration. Buying into Celtic, if that's truly what's on the table, would be another chapter in that saga of reinvention. Picture the headlines. Beckham, the Englishman, becoming the face of one of Scotland's most storied clubs. It would be more than a business deal. It would be theater, drama, almost Shakespearean in its layers. And let's not ignore the timing. Celtic are always pushing to assert their dominance domestically. But on the European stage, the gap in finances compared to the giants of Spain, Germany, and England feels like a chasm. The promise of Beckham's global brand could act as a bridge. It's not just about money. It's about visibility, influence, and the ability to attract talent who might never otherwise glance towards the Scottish Premiership. Suddenly, those whispers of Beckham buying Celtic don't feel quite as far-fetched. Of course, football purists will raise their eyebrows, and rightly so. The romance of Celtic, the purity of its working-class roots, sits uncomfortably alongside the glittering world of celebrity ownership. Beckham is as much a symbol of the modern, commercialized game as he is of the traditional values of dedication and discipline. That duality makes him a fascinating, if controversial, candidate to tie his legacy to Celtic. Would supporters embrace the glamour if it meant competing more seriously in Europe? Or would they see it as selling out, sacrificing authenticity for superficial stardust? These are the debates that shake pubs and podcasts right now. And it doesn't stop there. Rival fans will twist the rumor into ammunition. Pundits will dissect every angle. And the Scottish press will dine on the story for months. That's the power of Beckham's name. Even the faintest association with a club of Celtic stature turns into a media storm. Maybe that's the point, though. Maybe the very fact we're talking about it, imagining it, arguing about it, is proof that Beckham buying Celtic already has some symbolic truth, even if no deal ever emerges from the shadows. Let's not forget, Beckham has always carried an aura that stretches beyond football. This is a man who can sit down with politicians, appear at royal events, and just as easily be on the front row of a Paris fashion show. Celtic, meanwhile, carry a cultural weight that transcends sport, particularly among Irish diaspora communities around the world. If those two forces were to collide, the synergy could be extraordinary. Imagine Celtic shirts in boutiques in Tokyo, Los Angeles, Milan, not just as kits, but as fashion items endorsed by Beckham himself. It's a vision that both excites and unsettles. The club elevated to a global lifestyle brand, while traditionalists fret about losing the rough edges that make Celtic, well, Celtic. Yet in football, image and revenue are increasingly inseparable from performance. With Champions League qualification and deeper runs requiring investment, maybe Beckham's gloss is not a luxury, but a necessity. That's where the rumor becomes more than idle chatter. It becomes a thought experiment about the future of Celtic and Scottish football. Beckham's name is the spark, but the bigger fire is about what direction the club dares to take. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Then again, one can't ignore the possibility that this is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. Beckham's name has been floated in countless ownership rumors before, often without substance. Every time he appears courtside at a big match, or casually tours a stadium, speculation blooms like springtime flowers. Could Celtic simply be the latest target of gossip, with no real intention behind it? That's the cautionary note many are raising, reminding everyone that business in football is rarely straightforward. Clubs aren't toys, and the politics behind the boardroom doors at Parkhead are as intricate as they come. To imagine Beckham waltzing in and taking control is perhaps underestimating the complexity involved. Yet rumors persist precisely because they defy logic. They thrive in that gray space between reality and fantasy, where the heart overrides the head. Celtic fans know this all too well, having endured plenty of false dawns and broken promises. Still, the thought lingers. What if just this once the wildest story turns out to be true? Because if it did, the landscape of Scottish football could change in ways we can barely predict. What makes this rumor particularly intoxicating is the clash of worlds it represents. Celtic, raw passion, unfiltered emotion, a club where songs and banners carry as much power as statistics. Beckham, polished, refined, global, a man who has turned himself into a walking empire. Put those two together, and you have a collision that could either create something explosive or collapse under the weight of its contradictions. Fans in the East End of Glasgow dream of a future where their club is no longer financially dwarfed by English sides. They picture marquee signings, renewed European ambitions, and a seat at the global football table. Others shudder at the thought of Celtic being turned into a marketing tool, stripped of its authenticity. That tension is precisely what fuels the speculation. The rumor thrives not because it's confirmed, but because it embodies the eternal struggle in modern football. Tradition versus commercialization, heart versus profit, local identity versus global expansion. Beckham buying Celtic may or may not happen, but in discussing it, fans are already grappling with those bigger questions. And maybe that's the true legacy of the rumor, even if it fades away tomorrow. At the end of the day, whether Beckham ever signs his name on Celtic's dotted line might not matter as much as the energy the rumor has unleashed. Supporters have spent days envisioning what it would mean. Opponents have sharpened their banter, and the media has found yet another storyline that refuses to die. Football thrives on stories like this, on dreams, on fears, on the possibility of the unexpected. That's what keeps the game alive in the hearts of millions. So maybe Beckham has no plans whatsoever to buy Celtic. Maybe this is all smoke. Or maybe, just maybe, behind closed doors, discussions are happening that could rewrite the future of the club. Until the truth surfaces, the rumor will live on, feeding the imagination of fans who crave both success and drama. Because in Glasgow, in football, and especially when Beckham's name is involved, nothing is ever just business. It's always personal, always emotional, always larger than life. And that's why tonight, the chatter continues, the pubs buzz, and the thought of Beckham in green and white remains the wildest, most irresistible story of them all. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, Share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.